is to welcome them back. About if you're watching at home, okay, don't have to worry. We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. We continue with the blessing of the Shabbat candles on page 2 and 3 in the prayer book, and it's my honor to invite Ella Raber to bless and light the Shabbat candles.
Source of light and creator of the eternal law, help us to find knowledge by which let us words, hearts, and our lives. Bless all who bring the offerings of hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness.
Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Baruch ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, lahadlik ner Lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. And we continue a few pages later with the Kiddush on Shabbat, blessing over wine, and then a little bit later the blessing over bread. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Hamotzi for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Amen. Wherever you go from this place tonight, your bread is blessed. So you can, if you're at McDonald's, wherever, you can start in. We continue now with the call to worship, the Baruch Hu, and we turn now to page 28, and please rise, and we remain standing through the Shema. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. O God, you are near to us as the very air we breathe, yet farther than the farthermost star. We yearn to reach you. We seek the light and warmth of your presence. Though we say you are near, we are lonely and alone. Let our desire be so strong that it will tear the veil that keeps you from our sight. Let your light release our darkness and reveal the glory and joy of your presence. We continue with the Shema on page 34. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Please be seated. We continue with the Ve'ahavta on page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha v'hayu hadivarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha V'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta b'am, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, uvelechtecha v'aderech, uv'shachbecha uv'kumecha, ukshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha, Leman tizkeru, v'atzitem et kol mitzvotai, v'tem kiroshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, lihyot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Page 38. And we read responsively every other line. All this we hold to be true and trustworthy for us. You alone are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You are our sovereign and Savior. Deliver us from tyrant oppressors' hands, and saves us from tyrants' fists. You work wonders without number, marvels beyond count. You give us life and steady our footsteps. You perform miracles for us before Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the land of the Egyptians. You led your people Israel out from their midst, freedom for all time. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang together, lifting their voices joyfully. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh, malechutecha rahuvanecha, Bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam ze'elianu ve'ameru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Page 50. You are forever mighty, Adonai. You give life to all. You sustain life through love, giving life to all. Through great compassion, supporting the falling, healing the sick, freeing the captive, keeping faith with those who sleep in the dust. Who is like you, source of mighty acts? Who resembles you, a sovereign who takes and gives life, causing deliverance to spring up and faithfully giving life to all. Blessed are you, Adonai, who gives life to all. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Page 52. Ata kadosh, v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim v'chol yom yahalalucha sela, Baruch Ata Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed. And we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place. We did not know it. We continue on page 59. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us, we mortals that you take note of us? You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty, gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch Ata Adonai, Atov Shimcha, Ulecha Na'eh Lahodot. Continue now with Tefillah, which you will find on page 46. And I invite you to please rise. 46. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. Adonai sifatai tiftach, ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, U'mevi Gula Livnei V'nehem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Mageh. Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'ezrat Sarah. Please be seated. We continue with Shalom Rav on page 60. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Hi atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Hi atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, kasim leolam. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, kasim leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol het uv'chol sha'a Bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. We turn now to Misha Berach, a prayer for healing. And at this time, we invite you to mention out loud or in your hearts the names of those in need of a healing prayer. If you will turn to page 215 for the Misha Berach prayer, you will see the words of this prayer. And I will indicate to you it's time to insert the name of your loved one if you so desire. And I add to the names that we have in our hearts and in our minds the name Aubrey Craig. And if you have a Misha Berach. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Ishebera imotenu Mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Continue a moment in silent meditation. Ose shalom bimromav, uya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ose shalom bimromav, Ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Tomorrow is a day marked in the Hebrew calendar as the 9th day of the month of Av. The word 9 in Hebrew is Tisha. The word for in is B, and the word for month of Av is Av. Tisha B'Av is the 9th of Av. But most of our ancestors may have pronounced it as Tisha B'Av. And this was a day of fasting and mourning across the globe for the Jewish community. Because on the 9th day of the month of Av, the Temple of Solomon was destroyed by the Babylonians. You're going to be tested on this. It was destroyed in the year 586 before the Common Era. And then, close enough to be connected with the 9th of Av, on the 9th of Av, in the year 70 of the Common Era, the temple that stood in Jerusalem after the Israelites returned 400 years earlier, that temple was destroyed as well on the 9th of Av. So this day became a day of fasting and mourning. And it was a day when hundreds, if not thousands, of Jews would crowd toward the wall of the temple in Jerusalem, even today, and they would stay up all night reciting from the book of Lamentations, which was written as an extended prayer of mourning for the temple that was destroyed by the Romans and the Babylonians. As one of my colleagues once remarked, have you seen any Babylonians or Romans lately? We're still here. Now, many years ago, well, not that many years ago, not like 4,000 years ago, but a few years ago, I was a rabbi teaching at a summer camp. And my good fortune placed me at that summer camp during Tisha B'Av, during the commemoration of the 9th of Av. And I listened to what was going on. Now, this was a Reformed Jewish summer camp, and they were deeply, deeply connected to the destruction of the temple. The only problem is that Reformed Judaism is absolutely diametrically opposed to the reestablishment of a temple. I know they haven't told you this very often, but it's true. There's nobody in the Reform movement that's advocating for animal sacrifices taking place in Jerusalem. Not now, not 20 years from now, not in the future. I know that the traditional community prays 3 times a day for the restoration of the temple in Jerusalem, but it's not something in our Reform belief structure. And so I looked at that focus in that summer camp on those sad and tragic days, and I had a sort of epiphany, a realization that we were in violation of the Bible. That to celebrate, to commemorate the 9th day of the month of Av would be to do something that the prophet Zechariah said we shouldn't do. Zechariah was a post-exile prophet. And he was writing after the Jews had returned from exile in Babylonia, and he was giving them hope, and he said to them, no longer will you observe the fast of the 5th month, and the fast of the 7th month, and the fast of the 10th month, because your fortunes will be restored to you. You will be in your own land, and you will have Jerusalem in your possession. The thought occurred to me, wait a minute, since 1948, Jews have been in possession of the land. The fast of the 5th month, Av is the 5th month in the calendar, and then you go Av, Elul, and then Tishrei is the 7th month, Rosh Hashanah. The fast of the 5th month will no longer be. Why are we doing this? I would understand if we were looking for these things. We needed something different to do on Tisha B'Av, but certainly it was not longing for a temple and a structure and a worship service that consisted mainly of slaughtering beef and goats. It just doesn't work in our world. It's that notion that we look for something to celebrate. Summer camp had no holidays. There was no Pesach in the summer. Summer camp couldn't celebrate Rosh Hashanah. Summer camp couldn't celebrate Hanukkah. All they were left with was a holiday of mourning, so they made the most of it. And unfortunately, they made the most of it. They celebrated it. They commemorated it. They taught on it. And they taught about every disaster that occurred in Jewish life, and that's what they used it for. This week, a writer whose claim to fame is she wrote a book for children called Mamala Knows Best. Her name is Marjorie Ingalls. And she wrote an article in the book section of the New York Times, and she applauded the fact that for the first year, no child's book on the Holocaust was put up for the Sidney Taylor Award for Best Jewish Writing for Children and Youth Fiction. She says, wow, that's a major occurrence. Because as she noted, each year for the last 30 years, 30% of the books that were given the award were books on the Holocaust. She says, the focus on the Holocaust in the 53 years since the award was established, 105 children's and young adult books were given gold medals. 31 of them were about the Holocaust. More and more Jews, she said, seem to base their understanding of Judaism and what is important to Judaism on the Holocaust. It moved up 3 points from 73% to 76% of Jews in America after the Pew study of 2020. More and more of us believe that the Holocaust is the center of Jewish life. Now, Marjorie Ingalls, she said that it was the wrong thing to do. By focusing so relentlessly on the Holocaust, she says, we're telling kids, Jewish and not, that the worst thing that ever happened to us is the cornerstone of our collective memory. It's understandable. Trying to guilt non-Jews into refraining from slurs and attacks, how's that working out for us based on the Holocaust? She understands that we do need to study and to take account of the Holocaust. We can't forget the Holocaust. But we can't make it the center point of what we teach children. And then she does something many of my colleagues and I are guilty of. Most of us don't give you answers. In other words, we cite a problem and then we don't tell you what the solution to the problem is. She actually makes suggestions, concrete suggestions about the kinds of books that writers need to write to teach children about Jewish life. And here are her suggestions. I love this. Give us books about a black Orthodox Jewish kid who solves mysteries. What a great idea. Okay, we are a diverse community. We have people of all races from all parts of the planet. Give us a black Jewish kid who solves mysteries. How about college students debating Israel and Palestine? College students having a debate in the course of a novel about Israel and Palestine. How about keeping kosher at a state fair? You ever try that? Of course, we haven't been in a state fair in 3 years, so I don't know if anybody remembers what a state fair is. And my favorite, how about a book about a Jewish girl on a harsh desert planet who rescues a fugitive droid and saves the galaxy? Give us more and better contemporary stories in which Jewishness isn't the problem or even the main subject, but rather a facet of the protagonist's nuanced identity. And then she says, parents, teachers, Jews of every stripe, make sure you buy these books for your children and your grandchildren. Interesting. Don't make disaster the center of our existence. And the idea that Tisha B'Av, the destruction of the temple 2,000 years ago, is the center, is wrong and mistaken, especially for Reform Jews. And then yesterday, lo and behold, wonder of wonders, miracle of miracles, Reform movement said, you know, we should use the 9th of Av to commemorate all the things that are wrong with our world. Use it to remember injustice. Use it to remember climate change and the disasters that follow that. Use it for all the ills of our society so that we can have a fast day and remind ourselves that we have much to do to repair the world. Amen. May God grant that we have the ability to understand that each generation needs to find the focus of its Tisha B'Av commemoration and to move forward with things that can cause us to be sensitive and mindful and proud of who we are. Eni Hiratzon. May it be God's will. We turn now to the Aleinu on page 282. Page 282. Please rise. On page 285, let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. O may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz vayom hahu yihye Adonai echad. Ushemo echad. Our meditation before Kaddish is found on page 291. It is hard to sing of oneness when our world is not complete. When those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and naught but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in company with those we loved. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words. And what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives most fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world. In each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one whose life, now ended, brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. On this Shabbat, we mention the names of those taken from us in recent days, and our hearts go out in sympathy to their family as we recall their names in love. Max Bernstein, Audrey Friedman, Susan Marilyn Mogerman. In love and respect, we mention the names of those whose yahrzeits, the anniversary of whose passing, occur on this Shabbat, and whose names have been inscribed in the archives of our congregation or on the Wall of Honor for perpetual memorial. John H. Bamberger, Sarah Berstein, Jules E. Bindler, Harry E. Block, Louis Blumberg, Bertalan Bolgar, Sarah Cohn, John Feinstein, Theodore Finkelstein, Arthur Fishman, Michael Freeman, Rose Levenberg Geller, Leon Goldberg, J. Lewis Gordon, Johanna Neustadt Horn, Sidney Harold Katz, Maurice M. Koenigsberg, Morris Kraus, Emil M. Lasker, Thomas Lasker Sr., Rose Lefton, Hyman G. Levy, Arthur Lumstein, Jerome Molaski, Salsia Laska Offenbach, Ann Satz, Ava Sarah Siegel, Benjamin M. Seidler, Earl Richard Silver, Jane Sue Silver, Betty Harris Simon, M. Randall Spitzer, Fanny L. Stern, Evelyn B. Troyman, Elsie Wheel, Margaret Weisman, Suzanne Yowitz, Thelma Popper Ziskin, together with those whom we name in our hearts as we turn to words of Kaddish on page 294, and we rise as one congregation. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Yalma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute. V'chayechon v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. V'agala v'zman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam mil'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei dekudsha berichu. Elah min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Damiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Huya aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and bring comfort to all who are bereaved. And we say together, Oseh shalom bimromav. Huya aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru. Amen. Shabbat shalom to you all.